Good morning, conference. Chair conference, Dawn Butler, Brent Central CLP. Speaking for the first time as a shadow minister and speaking for the last time as a shadow minister. See what I did there? See what I did there? I want to thank the Equalities team, Carolyn Harris, Naz Shah, Baroness Anita Gale, for the great work they do in women and equalities, holding the Tories to account. Rebuilding Britain for the many, not the few. We know this is our vision, but what will this look like under the next Labour government? Almost all of our equality laws have been made under previous Labour governments. This Conservative government continues to destroy hard-won equality rights that Labour and the trade unions have fought really hard for. Everywhere we look, your rights are being eroded or removed. For far too long, the Tory government has treated equality as an add-on, an afterthought. The Tories have had 7 different ministers, tied on to 4 different departments, and a budget that's almost been halved. 2018 has been the year where the Tory government's institutionally racist policies have been exposed. The hostile environment and the damage they have done to the Windrush generation will never be forgiven, nor forgotten, nor should it be. My parents were invited here from Jamaica. They were confronted with signs saying, "No blacks, no Irish, no dogs." My parents worked so hard, and my dad never took a day off sick in his life. They paid their taxes, and they raised their children well, as I'm sure you'd agree. Now the Windrush generation, in their twilight years, when they should be enjoying their entire retirement, are confronted with, "Go home. You're no longer British. You are surplus to requirements." This could have been my parents. Shame, absolutely. This could have been my parents. After giving their blood, sweat and tears to rebuild Britain, they are discarded like trash. And this was no mistake or unintended consequences by Theresa May. Her hostile environment was by design. And sadly, this hostile environment has not been reserved just for the Windrush generation. Under universal credit, women are set to lose £1,400 a year. And if you're a black woman, you lose even more. Older people have seen a reduction in services, with home visits lasting as little as 15 minutes. How many in this conference can wash, eat and get changed in just 15 minutes? And don't forget the 1950s women cheated out of their pensions. Disabled people, you've been treated so badly by this government's austerity policy that the United Nations has said it is a systematic violation of your rights. Black, Asian, minority ethnic people, the government's own race disparity audit has highlighted that its own policies have a detrimental effect on you, from justice system to education and employment, and yet they still refuse to rectify it. People of faith, since Brexit, we have seen hate crime increase by 29%. And the LGBTQI+ community, the last 12 months have seen hate crime increase 5-fold, with 45% of trans students attempting suicide. I could go on talking about the many things that mitigate against a fairer society, but I want to talk about what a Labour government would do. A Labour government will put equality centre stage. It will be the central thread across all of government. We will create a standalone Women and Equalities Department, which for the very first time will be headed by a Secretary of State. We will develop and deliver a national equality strategy, lead on reducing discrimination and inequality. Equality, this is enforced through all machinery of government. Labour will deliver a fairer society for the many. We will equality-proof all legislation before, during and after implementation, ensuring that no individual group is unfairly discriminated against by our laws. This would prevent another Windrush scandal ever happening again. Labour's new Equality Department will work alongside other departments to implement up to 10 days paid leave for those suffering from domestic abuse, change the law so that people can bring forward cases on multiple grounds of discrimination, strengthen the Equality and Human Rights Commission, integrate the United Nations Convention on Rights for People with Disabilities, ensure that British Sign Language be given full legal status, re-establish a Women's National Commission, launch the Emancipation Educational Trust, and supply free sanitary products in schools, colleges and homeless shelters to end period poverty. And conference. All of this will commence in our first term of office. And I know what you're thinking. How will we find time to sleep? Who needs sleep when the next Labour government will be the most progressive, aspirational government in this country's history? The privileged few and the mainstream media try to tell us that it can't be done. Don't believe them. It can. In reality, what is wrong with those at the very top getting a little less so that those at the bottom can get a little more? I wouldn't class that as radical, would you? A Labour government will rebuild Britain for the many, not the few. Conference. There are many people in our country who want to revolt against the cruel injustices of the Tories. But there are so many obstacles. They want their voices to be heard, but unfair obstacles overpower them. They want a better life, but at every turn, there's a different obstacle to overcome. Conference. I'm Labour because my parents told me how the Labour Party made them feel welcome when they came from Jamaica. Labour stands for fairness, equality, and justice. It is imperative that we are united and keep people like my parents and the many who desperately need a Labour government at the forefront of our minds, and the many who need us to overcome the obstacles the Tories have put in their way. This isn't just a question of spending money, it's a question of fairness. To build that fairer society, we must tackle all of those injustices. A fairer society should be judged on the basis that we measure success by the obstacles we overcome. Conference, the time to overcome is now. It is time that we overcome these obstacles if we are to fulfill our vision for the many, not the few. And conference, I believe we can overcome. Together, united, we shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep, you know where I'm going with this, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday, and someday soon. Conference, look around you. Look around you. We are the many. We are the many. Actually, turn to someone, shake their hands and say, we are the many. We are. We are the many. And there are many, many more. And they need Labour to make our country fairer, to level the playing field, to empower them, to break down the obstacles for them. Conference, let's be united and fight for a Labour government of the many and not the few. Thank you very much. Thank you.